I have lived on 4 different continents for at least 1 year. I've always just wanted career and financial stability, but somehow God literally had other plans for me. I was born in Rwanda, and my parents immigrated from Rwanda to Uganda like after the genocide. When we were living in Uganda, we lived in a refugee camp. My parents went through this really extensive process to seek asylum in the US, and I remember being a kid, like it took so many years, and like they would do different interviews. We had to like move to Kampala. At first we were like living in the camp, and then we moved to Kampala, which is like the capital of Uganda. When we lived in Uganda, I fully could speak Luganda, which is like the native language in Uganda, but it took such a long time. I remember 1 year, maybe when I was like 4 or 5, we thought we were coming, and then like they pushed it up by like 2 years. It was a really long, extensive process, but I feel like because of like what my parents experienced in Rwanda and like the trauma and just like having to leave a place that was like so torn by violence and war, that was enough for them to like be able to immigrate to the US. We were so lucky to be like one of the families that was selected. So we moved to the US, and that was like my first time obviously on a plane. Like I remember, I think we went to Atlanta International Airport. I've never been to Atlanta since that time, but we arrived here. My parents really set themselves up, started living life in America. I had to learn English. I remember just being so freaking like embarrassed of my accent and just being embarrassed of myself. Literally, when we moved to the US, I'm gonna include pictures for everything. I literally, my head was shaved off. Like, I don't know if anyone else who immigrated to America, like parents shaved your hair off, and like you just came into this country, and like so much culture shock, people not really understanding you, trying to communicate. So that's how I ended up losing Luganda, because at school, like I was just pushing myself to learn English. Home, we would still kind of speak Kinyarwanda to our parents. So that's how I've been able to hold on to the little Kinyarwanda that I can speak. Where things really shifted for me in terms of like really viewing the world and like having international like education and experiences, it really started when I went to middle school. So in 7th grade, I had switched schools, and I ended up at an international school. It's called Denver Center for International School. They literally closing down, which I don't even understand. But it's actually called Denver Center for International Studies, but they had 2 campuses. So for like middle school, I went to one that was downtown, and at that campus, you guys, when I tell you, like everyone there had some sort of international experience. The whole school year, people would be fundraising, doing like bake sales, selling different snacks, just so that they can raise money to like go to another country. Like there were so many programs that my school partnered with, would send kids there. Even as early as middle school, people were traveling. Also, I remember like we would come back from summer break, and everybody would talk about all these wonderful places that they went to, because honestly, at that campus, the majority of people that were there were white people. There was not a lot of minorities, POCs at that campus. So like a lot of them could spend the summer in like Italy or the UK, and like they would talk about their summer. I would just be so embarrassed to like talk about mine. And even for like different classes, like we would do like capstones that focused on us like learning about different culture. It was such an international experience, and like we all had to take languages. That wasn't a requirement. I think you had to take it like the entire time. So I took French the entire time that I was in middle school, and it was so international. It was like a middle school and high school, so even the high schoolers would always come to our classes telling us about the different programs that they had done. People had really gone to places that you just would never imagine. I remember people were going to Peru, people were going to Nepal, people were going to like Thailand, like just like Ghana, Senegal, like everywhere, like all the countries that you could think of in the world. People had a story going there. So I just remember always being like, my God, I want to travel to those places one day. But at the time, I was a permanent resident, so I didn't have my US citizenship, so I couldn't really go anywhere. But I just remember it being such an important part of my middle school. And then by the time I went to high school, I still stayed in the same school, but I went to that school in a different neighborhood, Denver Center for International School in Montbello, which is like more ethnic. Like the population in Northeast Denver is mostly Hispanic and as well as Black. So like the kids there, like our opportunities in that neighborhood was very limited. But like my school, like the opportunities that kids were getting there, it was like nothing that I have ever seen before. Kids were literally being obviously taught international studies. I remember like the languages that they offered. I have friends taking Chinese, like my sister and one of my friends was taking Chinese. I was taking French again. I took French literally middle school, high school, and college. I still don't know anything, but we were really exposed to the world. And again, like that school, they have the same programs. They offer scholarships for most of the programs, or you can fundraise at school, do literally bake sales throughout the school year, and like you will make the money to be able to go abroad. I remember, because again, I was not a US citizen, all my friends were traveling to different parts of the world. I have friends go to China. One of my really good friends, she ended up going to Rwanda and Uganda. I really wanted to go on that trip, but I did not have the papers for it. The same friend also went to South Korea. They really traveled the world. And then for me, because I didn't have my papers, they had like this program in Virginia called Global Village something. I'm going to look up the name so you guys can look up all these programs if you have like sisters or whatever you want to send to, because I think that one might still be open. But that program, that's the one international experience I had. So like basically you go to this summer camp for like 3 weeks and they paid for everything. I didn't have to pay for anything. And like they bring in like students from all over the world. So like that was honestly one of the coolest experiences. I would never forget that. I remember there was like this one really like hot guy. He was from Spain and he made us tortilla, which is like the egg and potato dish. It was so freaking good. And then we had like a group of Native American students and they made flatbread and like something like a sauce to go with it. That was so good. Like those are really like, when I think of like high school, like those are moments that I just like think about a lot. And then there were like a couple of students from Nigeria. People were coming from all over the world, and some of them I'm still connected on social media. One of the girls from Nigeria, she lives in London, and like when I was in London, I think like I messaged her once or twice because of like the Global Village experience that I had. That was really like, oh my god, the world is so big and like there's so many cultures and beautiful places that I want to see, but I still didn't have that passport until I went to college. So the college that I ended up going to is the University of Denver. When I chose to go to DU, honestly, I didn't really know anything about their study abroad program. This is where like literally when your path is meant to be going in a certain direction, God would just like naturally guide you. Like I don't even know how I ended up at like the international school and then going to a school where like the whole thing that they really promote is the study abroad program. I think at the time when I was in college, 70% of the students at that school go abroad. Like, they do a semester abroad. So like that's the big thing. And I remember just like hearing about people's different stories and being super excited. Anyways, this video is getting long, so I'm gonna like park this at part 1. So right now we're in college and I'm learning about the study abroad programs. I'll do part 2 where we talk about college and then we talk about more about my international journey.